Gentlemen, we just have time for one more question in this portion of the debate with the panelists. And so I believe we have a question from Mr. Busboom, and this question will be directed toward you first, Representative Flider.
Representative Flider, you currently work for the taxpayers of the 101st District. The state, it is currently a mess with corruption in many levels. It is recognized nationally as a financial and political embarrassment. That being said, if this election is a job review for some voters, a job interview for other voters, why should you be reelected?
Fair question. And let me just start by saying that we know that our state is in dire fiscal consequences. I really don't have a minute to go into the things that I'd like to say here that we've addressed. We've passed ethics reform legislation. We passed a pension reform bill that will save our state billions of dollars into the future. We have ended the pay-to-play regime of Ryan and Blagojevich, and we've passed laws to stop those kinds of practices from occurring. There's much more work to do. I have worked very hard to pass legislation. I have passed legislation twice for the state to pay its bills on time, only to be rebuffed in the Senate. And I have, along with my colleagues, voted to cut my own pay, help lead that charge in Springfield to ensure that state legislators need to be accountable as well. And many are suffering, but the members of the General Assembly need to make sure that they are a part of the solution as well. And so I could go on, but I feel like we're only tipping at the tip of the iceberg in terms of the reforms that are needed.
Thank you, Representative Flider. Mr. Brown?
Mr. Brown, to follow up and rephrase this for you and where you're at, if we consider this election a job interview for you, what past success can you point to that would convince voters that you're the person for the job?
Well, we have to implement a balanced budget, and over the past 3 years, as mentioned earlier, the state hasn't passed a balanced budget against its own constitution. Here in the city of Decatur, we passed a balanced budget. Not only did I come into the office with a $4 million deficit in the city of Decatur, next year we're projected to have $1 million surplus. So we've got to be fiscally conservative here. We've got to take a look at where the money needs to be allocated, and we need to do that absolutely right away.
This concludes the panelist portion of our questioning, and we're now going to take some time to address questions from the audience members. If you'll give us just a couple of minutes to get ready for that process. Next question.
Hi, my name is John Howdy. Hey, LeBron James left Cleveland and pocketed himself almost $1 million a year and reduced by not having to pay state income tax. Before leading up to this recession, the states that had no income tax had the greatest job growth. Even this evening, you said that increasing the state income tax would reduce our jobs, or hurt jobs. I would assert that probably the opposite would also be true. Would either of you here tonight support eliminating the state income tax as a way to bring entrepreneurs into Illinois and to increase private employment?
Well, that's a interesting question. I guess the question I would ask you is how the state would fund programs like education without an income tax. I mean, is this what you're proposing, elimination of education and other types of services?
Well, there's two ways that you guys have been talking really big on the cutting the budget parts, but the other one is expanding the revenue, and the state is losing jobs, losing people, losing population, and bringing new businesses and opportunities in here will bring increased revenue. It's kind of called supply side economics. And I don't care if you would increase the sales tax, we could do it other ways, but the individual income tax specifically targets the people who have the money to invest in this state to bring employment. You talked about Archer Daniels, Midland, Mueller. All those were last names of entrepreneurs who came to Illinois and built a business and are employing people today. And we need to figure out how to get those people to come into Illinois for the future.
Well, I would just tell you this, based on your question. If we could provide the vital funding for vital services such as education, nursing care, and others without an income tax, I'd support it.
Well, no income tax is absolutely feasible because it's being done in Florida right now. I think it would be a great idea. Of course, we have to find the money to fund other obligations as well. So we're going to have to go through the budget and find where that waste is at. In the long term, getting business back here in Illinois is a main priority. We have to create jobs. And by holding the line on taxes, we will create jobs. However, you take a look at Quinn's proposals, and his budget director came out and said, once they get through the election cycle, he would like to pass an income tax increase of 67%. I believe that's a move in the exact wrong direction.
Mr. Brown, this gentleman would like to direct his question toward you first.
Mr. Brown, my name's Ralph Buston. I work here in Decatur. I guess my question would be on trust. You being a city council member, you was brought an issue before you. It was the responsible bidders issue. You assured the Decatur trades that you would support that. When the meeting came up to vote on it, which was 2 days later, I believe, you voted no. Can you explain yourself?
Absolutely. The responsible bidders ordinance here in Decatur actually forced us into a position where we were going to have to vote for a $600,000 contract to go to a company outside of Decatur when a Decatur company was bidding on that contract. I thought that was unfair, and I thought we needed to award that contract to the local company. However, responsible bidders ordinance, unfortunately in that circumstance, stood in the way.
The purpose of a responsible bidder ordinance, we have a responsible bidder law at the state level. The purpose of that is to ensure safety of workers, ensure that those who are working are trained adequately, and to ensure that the job will be done by a trained professional. And I think many times what we find without that is that some of these companies who come in and bid from out of state, actually they're not qualified, or actually they make promises and they can't deliver, or actually the costs end up escalating. And so it's really important, it seems to me, to ensure that workers are trained and that we have the standards that are necessary to ensure that the work is done in the most cost-effective manner. But a lot of that has to be done through examination by the governing entity. Without that kind of examination, there are going to be costs that escalate. But you can be rest assured that through companies that do their work with through representatives of labor, that that job will be done not only in a good time frame, but also will be done right.
We have just 2 more questions. These were actually submitted by people who preferred that I read the question. The first question, I'll go ahead and have you answer first, Representative Flider. And the question is, do you support the Tenasca project?
I think this could be one of the most important projects for Illinois, and in particular Central Illinois. As the chairman of the Electric Generation and Commerce Committee, I can tell you that there's very few power plants that are under construction right now. And the opportunity, whether it's Future Gen or whether it's Secure Energy or whether it's Tenasca, to make sure that we're building power plants, but more importantly, using Illinois coal in the construction or in the as fuel in those power plants is very, very important to our future. If we do not find a way to use Illinois coal to put people back to work who are in those power plants and who are in those coal mines, then the green movement will pass Illinois by, and we'll suffer from that. So I think it's vitally important that we put people back to work, have the power that we need to ensure that we can generate electricity for a growing economy.
This project's extremely important. Not only do we need to use environmental resources of Central Illinois, we need to use our labor resources here. A lot of folks, both union and non-union, are out of work currently. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, Decatur's unemployment, third highest in the state. We need new projects and we need new growth right here locally.
This next question is energy related as well. I'll go ahead and give you the opportunity to answer first, Mr. Brown. It says, if funding is available, would you support building new nuclear power plants or expanding on those that are already in existence?
Well, I think power generation is a huge concern right now, and I think folks are looking to alternative sources of power. For instance, wind resources. Out on our farm in Macon County, we actually have a windmill going up currently. And so we've got to support some of these green measures. Anything to get folks back to work definitely needs to be on our agenda and examined very closely. So of course, nuclear power plant, if that comes up on our radar screen, it definitely needs to be taken a good hard look at.
We actually have had some legislation come through the House of Representatives which would allow for permitting of a new nuclear unit, potentially one that would be nearby. And I think that, again, the importance of having sources of electricity, low-cost electricity, are vitally important. But speaking of energy costs, one of the things that we've been able to do, in 2007, I was a sponsor of legislation that helps move our state in the direction of ensuring that we have adequate generation, created the Illinois Power Authority. And what it does is actually requires utilities to purchase wind and solar power in a more progressive manner as time goes by. But in addition, it ensures that we would have the resources available. But on the distribution side, I will continue to fight for rate relief for consumers. In that legislation, we also obtained $1 billion in rate relief for consumers. And I believe that Ameren is continuing to overcharge its customers. I'm going to fight for rate reductions there as well.
We're going to take a short break as we're concluding now the town hall portion of our debate. We're going to come back with a few final thoughts from our candidates. They'll each have 3 minutes to speak. But I would just like to say thank you to our audience for providing some wonderful questions. Thank you to our panelists as well. And gentlemen, I believe you're both to be commended for your civil nature this evening, and I appreciate the gentlemanly fashion in which you've answered all the questions, and I think it's been very helpful.